Well, out here at Brown's Ravine, behind me is McDowell Hill. I'm going to be hiking up along the Natoma Ditch to about New York Ravine. I believe I will be stopped by the Dorado Irrigation District pumps. They're putting in new pumps and intake manifolds and everything. So I wanted to get to New York Ravine and see that where the Siphon inlet and outlet was. I haven't been there for a while. But we have a beautiful day, so let's go out and hike and see what we can't find on this waterworks project of the Natoma Canal that was built in the 1850s, 1851 through about 1853. I'm Kevin Knaus with Folsom Lake Hikes. Yeah, rocks on both sides. I don't see any concrete in this particular portion of the ditch. Doesn't mean it wasn't there, but not all portions of the ditch may have had a concrete lining. Marked on the Natoma Water and Mining Canal maps was a location called Deep Cut, which I believe is just south of McDowell Hill, and I believe this is the spot. You can see the rock has been thrown up, a fairly deep trench has been cut. Of course, there's been a lot of sediment over the years, but it would have, kept the elevation line, the slope, and that's what was important. They either had to go around McDowell Hill and lose elevation, or cut through this little area here. And you can see Mormon Island Dam is right over there, and that's where they needed to exit the Natoma Canal to head south to Rhodes Diggins and Alder Creek, Willow Springs, and point south. So, deep cut. Good find, Kevin, good find. I'm gonna say the outlet for the McDowell Flats branch from the Natoma Canal was right in about here where the wall obviously dips down, and then we have a little peninsula that runs out there to McDowell Flats and the mining districts. With McDowell Hill to the south, to the north, to the South Fork of the American River, would have been McDowell Flats, where a lot of mining did. It was a bench above the South Fork of the American River. Right now the water's at about 375 foot of elevation. You can see all of the cobble rock, mine tailings. Out there beyond is what we call the peninsula that held Negro Hill, and then over on the other side, the Negro Hill the Negro Hill Ditch. And so there was a lot of mining activity, because you can see the river makes kind of a sweeping bend to the south at this location, and then you can go on up and you can see how the canyon narrows as you go up towards the Natoma Dam. So the sides get steeper, and they had to do more work to keep the outer embankments, the retaining wall for the North Fork ditch, intact. But you can see all the cobble rock. There's some wire rope out here and different metal pieces, so heavily mined. And I believe that's Blue Ravine, even though the base rock has kind of a bluish tinge to it. I think it was probably Blue Ravine because of the blue oaks. There seems to be stands of blue oaks that kind of hang out by themselves. On this portion of the the Natoma Ditch, you can see how they have purposely stacked the rocks to support the canal as it ran next to this little creek. I'll have to find out the name of this creek that had the little flume over it. And here is that flume. Looks like it was a metal half moon Hess flume that went across this little creek right here. Two concrete supports down there. You can see how much silt and sand has fallen from above because of the lake. So that obscures a lot of the Natoma Ditch. And look at the, oh man, look at those rocks. Whew. And that's what they were digging through back in the 1850s to cut this ditch. A waste gate on the Natoma Ditch, fairly large. They would open those up to let sand out of sand silt that was clogging the canal. And then the canal came right along here and crossed this little stream. You can see the concrete pillars, foundations to support the flume across there. Closer look at that waste gate where they would dump the water from the Natoma Ditch. All put in with concrete, and then it would just wash out into that creek and go out towards the river. The Natoma Ditch had a flume or something at this location south of New York Ravine. Nothing's left of it, but it does illustrate how far they would go up a ravine so as not to have to, use a wooden flume. And this is a good 300, 400 yards to where it made the bend, came up the ravine, and then went back down. Where they could, they would span the ravine with a flume, which they did on New York Ravine, but not on this one for some particular reason. Another water project here on the South Fork of the American River, the Dorado Hills Irrigation District putting in new pumps, manifolds, intake, plumbing, all kinds of stuff. See the pipes going up the hill right up there. I don't think that Amos Catlin would have been opposed to either Folsom Dam or this particular project. People back then had a different view of natural resources. They were meant to be used to generate wealth and for the well-being of people. But you can see how the Natoma Ditch goes right around that hillside, and that's where I want to be. But I know that if I go over there, you can see the line right across there. I'm sure it'll be blocked, so there's no point in doing that. So I'll come in from the other side. This is New York Ravine that posed a challenge to the Natoma Ditch because of its depth and length. Over there, you might be able to make out where the exit for the inverted siphon was, and also the flume. They ran a large flume right about where the camera is situated across this very deep ravine, but it would wash out during high river water, and to run the ditch up the ravine and back down, you had to go up a good half a mile to a mile to make an easy crossing. And of course the ditch had to be at between 3 and 4 foot of drop per mile. So by the time they got to this other side, they would have lost 6 to 8 feet of elevation. And that all those calculations were considered because they needed an elevation high enough to exit the South Fork of the American River Canyon and get the canal down to roads, diggings, and points south. The outlet for the Natoma inverted siphon, you can see how steep the hill was that they were working with. Of course, Folsom Lake is at about 374 feet of elevation. so it doesn't give you a context of how deep this ravine really is. But it exited New York Creek into the South Fork almost at, riverbed level. So it was pretty deep. And you can see how long this deep ravine was. This is the inlet for the inverted Natoma Siphon on the Natoma Ditch. Now, the water at this point only had to be high enough to create enough head or pressure to go down the inverted siphon and push the water back up. And there was also friction involved, so it had to be high enough to overcome the friction of the redwood pipe and get over to the other side. And you can see how far a distance that was. You can probably see some of the redwood timbers still in the siphon. This is the outlet on the western side of New York Ravine. And it went all the way over to the other side, the eastern side. And part of the canal went up New York Ravine, but this really shows you how incredibly steep this area was that they were working in. And then we can pull back, and so the siphon came up. That was one of the supports, came right up here into this concrete structure, which was, the new ditch. There are remnants. You can kind of see out there some of the retaining walls. But essentially it came right around here above the South Fork of the American River and went around the hill down towards Red Bank and Mormon Island. You can see the retaining walls for the Natoma Ditch over there as it goes around the bend, and then it will hit where the Dorado Irrigation District is doing their pump work. But the steepness of this hill, it's just, I'm too old to slide all the way down the ravine into the water, so I'm gonna just use the video and say that I made it. Parts of the old Natoma Ditch that are filled in with sediment are very walkable like this, but it's getting to this portion where you can actually walk on, because as you can see, man, it is just like straight down. One slip rock and you're taking a bath, and I prefer showers. One of the rock walls, retaining walls for the Natoma Ditch on the west side of New York Ravine. The lake does a lot of work to destroy any history out here. But that's why we are trying to document it. And thank you for coming along and exploring the Natoma Ditch on the South Fork of the American River. For Folsom Lake Hikes, I'm Kevin Knaus.